Yes, good evening all. I'm Frank Sitawa from Kenya. I'm a full stack web developer, mostly specializing with the JavaScript technologies, Angular and Node.js. So today I had prepared a presentation on Angular schematics and object-oriented programming, and how you can use it to increase to reduce the complexity in your code, and also increase your project development, and the code generation using schematics, and then how you can arrange your code in a way in which you can be able to easily create, read, update, and delete documents or records from the backend in a more reusable way. So first of all, because most of the presentation starts with Angular schematics, so I'll just walk you through how we can use Angular schematics, and then how we can create custom schematics to extend what Angular currently has. Because for most people, we have used the Angular schematics before, like when you say ng generate service or something of the sort, we are using the schematics. But you can go a step further, whereby you can be able to generate folders, you can be able to generate files with custom names, and the names can also be dynamic. The code can also be updated dynamically. So that's what I wanted to present for you today. So I'll just share my screen to have a slide. So I hope you are all seeing the shared slides.
Yep.
Are you seeing them? Okay. So for Angular schematics, it's just basically I'll just do an intro, and then later on we can get to code, and then I'll show you how you can use also object-oriented to augment schematics for the easier code generation. So first of all, the key terms we need to talk about is, first of all, schematics. And schematics are template-based code. It's a template-based code generator that it supports complex logic, in that you can be able to do you can be able to have if statements, for loops, and what have you. And the technology behind it is just Angular CLI, and we use it when you are generating Angular services, components, and also when you create a new project, we use the ng command. So the Angular CLI is just a command line interface for Angular, and what we are going to do today is I'm going to show you an example of how we can automate the process of creating code based in files, and we can also look at some of the rules that you can use in your project. So why schematics? Number one, the most important thing is the same way we use ng generate service or something of the sort, we can also generate folders. And when we generate folders, you can think of it like generating a module. Instead of just generating a service, you can be able to, with one command, you can be able to generate the service, the components. If you have the models and what have you, according to your code structure, you can be able to generate it in one go. You can also generate several folders. They can be nested and what have you. And another way we use schematics is when you need maybe to update part of the code, you can also be able, because you can have it wired whereby when you add a new module, it can also update the file. And another thing that's very important is when you're working on a team, or when you are in a project, you're a senior, and you need to have consistent patterns. It's easier to, you can always share with the team, this is what I'm doing, but also you can also enforce the the patterns. And also it's very important when automating repetitive tasks. So the basic concepts when it comes to schematics, Angular schematics is we have rules, and rules are basically, it's a function, and it takes in a tree, and you can think of a tree as your current like a virtual file system, like what you have in your system, the same way Git works. Now we have a virtual file system which can be able to be modified, and if an error occurs when it's modifying, we can able to roll down or to roll back. So what basically the rule does is takes the file structure, modifies it, and then when everything is okay, it will return the new modified structure. So we have an example of a rule is a test scaffolding, and it just returns the tree. It doesn't do any modification, but I'll show you later how to do modification. So the core terminology is we have talked about the tree. It allows you to read and write the files, but in a virtual way. So it's something like a staging area where the changes can be made, and if they are all okay, then we can go to the next step. So we also have actions which can be performed. We can be able to create files or folders. We can be able to update them. We can be able to delete and rename. And another term we also use is a collection. You'll find like we can have like different schematics which are supposed to do the same, like the same function. So we group them into a collection, and then in that collection, that's where we have the specific schematic. And then we also have a template. So Angular schematics has a unique, it's like a common way in which you can be able to, you can have a syntax which can allow you to generate code and also generate the file names based on the input. So there's something whereby you can pass the name, and then it can be able to, whether you want it to be camel case, you want it to be dashed, or you want any other way you want it to be named, or also you can be able to add logic to if you want it to be plural or things like those. So we use a template. So the main functions we are going to look at is there's a apply, there's a branch and merge, chain, merge with, move, rule, strings, URL. You can also be able to rename template files. Like the way we store the files is it has a .template extension, but when the code is generated, we don't want the .template. So we are able to rename the template files, and we also be able to apply templates like to the files. So we have the main functions we have like the string utility function, classify. That's whereby you can be able to pass like my name, my hyphen name, and it's able to return it in like in a Pascal case. And dasherize is whereby we're able like to return it like the kebab case. This is common when we are using components. There are places where we want the file name to have an hyphen, and there are places where we need it to be capitalized, like the class name and what have you. So you can also create your own custom functions, and this allows you to add more complex logic that you want the file, what you want the code to look like after generation. So we also have they are like template syntax elements. So the first one is we have two underscores and then name. So this name is you pass it when you are creating you are calling the schematic. So the name you can be able to tell you are able to tell the schematics to either dasherize or classify to put it as a class, or what is it? You can be able to tell it also to start with a capital letter and what have you. And another thing we have is the template extension. So you just have normal files. You love the normal name, but at the end you add .template to show Angular that I have some code here that needs to be changed before generation. So for these, we usually pass template variables, and they are built-in variables, but also we can add other variables that we want. Like for the built-in variables, we have a name and a path. Name is what you want the component to be named, or what you want the folder, the general name for the whole module. For example, if you are creating a module for users, we can have the name as user, and then it will now create the user component, it will create the user service, the user model, and what have you.
Hi,
And then
Frank.
path is yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. I'm not sure if everyone is able to see the presentation because I think like it's frozen.
Oh, it's frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can only see,
Which was the
the
last slide you
second
saw?
slide.
Slide 2.
Slide
Second
2.
one.
Oh, sorry about that.
No
Are you
worries.
able to see slide 1 now?
You could stop sharing and then share it again.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Are you able to see it? Hello?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we're still seeing slide 2.
Oh, then I have to stop again. Let me just share the screen and then see.
Okay.
Are you able to see it?
Yeah, now it's slide 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Could you just try and move to the next slide just to see if it's working well?
are you able?
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have this like 2. That's we have the code generation, project modification. Why we use schematics? It's basically for code generation, project modification, and also enforcing consistent patterns and automating repetitive tasks, especially when you have many folders you need to create and they have the same pattern. Schematics can come in very well. So the basic concept is we have a rule, and the rule basically takes a tree, which is your file structure, like the folder, the files, and what have you, and then it's able to modify the tree and return a new tree. So once you have the new tree, then you can be able to tell Angular Schematics to either create a folder with the new inputs. Okay, so the core terminologies we have is we have a tree, and tree represent basically the current state of your project files, and it allows you to read the files and also write the files. And like Git, it supports staging, which will allow you, like if it encounters an error when making the changes, it's able to roll back. So we also have actions. Actions allows us to perform a specific action on the file system. So we're able to create, update, delete, or rename a file or a folder in that case. Also, we have something called collections, and collections is just a collection of rules. We can have maybe a project, it's an accounting project. We can name it accounting, and then we can have somewhere where we can create service, create model, and create auto view. So those schematics can be grouped together using the collection. And then we have the template. So the template is now what we will have, what we want to be generated. So it has a special syntax, and it allows code to be generated based on the input parameters and the syntax we have coded there. So for schematic functions, we have like apply, branch and merge, chain, merge with, move, rule, strings, URL and rename, template files, and apply template. I think we'll look more into it once we go to the code. And then we have utility functions. These are functions which basically just allow you to do things which are common. So we have like classify. It changes any input that you give it to like a Pascal case. So Pascal case basically is we have the first name, which is the first letter is capital, and any other word comes capitalized but with no space. So we can also, there's also camel case, which can, there's also a utility function for that, and also you can be able to add dashes automatically. So you can also create your own custom functions, which can augment what we have currently on the utility functions, like classify component. These are now there are functions which I've added, but you can just create anything you want. It's just still JavaScript. And then we also have template syntax elements. These are mostly dealing with the files, how you want them to like how you want the code to look. So the first thing we have is we have we can have the name. You can see it's 2 underscores name at dash rise. So what basically we are saying, there's an input you pass when you are creating the schematic, which has the value of name. Let's for example, I'm creating a module with or for users. So the name will be user, and then I can say at dash rise. So if it has something which needs to be added like a dash, it can be able to do it. We are now telling it to dash rise the name. And then we have the .template. This is basically just the template file. So for normal components, we can have like user .component.ts, but for the template file, we use user.component.ts.template. So it just tells Angular, this is a template file. You can be able to modify it according to the rules given. So we also have built-in variables like a name, the name we want to apply to the component. Like when you use ng generate service, we can pass a name for the service the way we want it to be called, and then the schematics can do the rest. And then path just shows you where you tells Angular where you want to generate the code. And then we also have a file extension for styles. So I'll just show you some let me just open a new window. So to use, first of all, I just show you the step-by-step process, because by default schematics is usually not installed. So I'll just show you the step-by-step how you can use it to install it, and then how you can use it to do the stuff. So first of all, you can run an npm install, and then we will install it globally. So the package is called Angular -dev kit /schematic CLI. So the schematic CLI is what we use to call our custom schematics. And also what we'll realize is for Angular we use ng generate, but for this we just use schematics for everything. So to create a blank schematic, you can use the command schematics, and then you pass blank. So in this case, we need a blank schematic, and name we can just say schematic test. So it will generate the bare bones schematic, and it will also install the packages needed. So we can cd to schematic. I hope you are seeing my screen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So once we are in that, let me just So once we have created the schematic, we can be able to see the usual files, like the package. It's just basically an npm package that we are creating. So when you come to source, this is where the source code for the schematic will be. So the first one, we have a collection, and you'll see a collection will allow us to add multiple schematics into the collection. And then we have another folder here for schematic test. So this is what basically will have our code for the schematic, for the rule. So we'll be passing the options, and once we pass the options, it will be manipulating the tree according to the options and then returning a tree. So the tree will be like the new changes that have been made before applying to the folder. So because of time, I'll just copy most of the code which I had already written and then explain it. So the first thing I want to do is create a folder for files. Now these are the files that I want to generate once I run the command. I'll do like a schematic, and then run schematic test. So it's supposed to be able to generate new files and also update the existing files. So I'll just copy here. So you'll see the first folder we have is a name at _rise. So what basically we are telling Angular schematic will be, once you open this folder of files, you need to, I'll show you the code to generate. So we need to generate code, but the name which you have passed, like for example, when we call it this way. So you can say schematics. So this, since we have installed the CLI, this is the command we'll be using, and then schematic test. So our collection name here our collection name is actually schematic test, and then the command that we want, schematic test. So schematic test will be, now it will be calling this file because this is the command we have here in this folder. So once we call it, the name that we have passed, we can pass here a name like hyphen. Yeah.
No worries. It was just someone who just came in. So just continue.
Okay. So we can pass here something like name is equals to user. So when we say name at _rise, what you are saying is just use the name. So it can be something like user name. You'll notice that N is capital. So what will happen basically is Angular schematics, once you say name at _rise, what you are telling it basically is generate a folder with the user username. So it will change the user capital N name to username. That's the _rise, and it will create that folder. And then when we go into the folder, we'll realize we have several files which I've also created. Like we can have here for service. For service, it has realize it has 2 underscores, name at _rise service. So for this case, it will create a, let me just add 2 comments here. It will create the service name using user name dot service, and then it will remove the dot template. So you'll have this file username hyphen dot service, and then inside the username dot service, it will call the classify method. This is a custom method. I'll show you how I'll create it. So we will pass name, and you'll realize what you are passing here is username. So for classes, we expect them to start with an uppercase. So it will be user name, something of the sort. That's for classify. And then for dasherize, it will be user name. So that's how these will be generated, the classify name, and it will always be like it will be import username service username, because we are just classifying the username from, and then this will be user hyphen name dot model. Remember, this is what we use to tell it what to generate dot model. I think I'm supposed to remove this. So yeah, so that's basically how we will generate the files that will be generated. So we have one for service and also one for module. You can just arrange it the way you arrange your code. And then we have for model, it's something just simple also. And then we also have this the main component. I prefer using the lazy loaded modules. So you can also have your test files there. You can have like your styles there. You can have the routing module also there. And then in the components, you can have for CRUD, we have create, read, update, and delete. So you can have a component for that is able to create and edit the document. You can also have a list component that's able to list the documents. You can also have there a button to delete and a button to edit. So it's up to you the way you want to arrange your code. So once you have done that, you are finished with like creating the files that you want to be generated. We can go to the index, and for the index, we just go again to the code. Just a moment. So for the index, we have a schematic test. So for this case, I'll just remove this so that I can. So we have return, and basically you are just supposed to return a tree. So the first thing you need to do is we need it to generate the files which are inside here in a module. So we'll say return, and then we'll get the template source. And then once we get the template source, I need to import this function. Once I get the template source, I need now to tell Angular what to do with the templates once it gets it. So what we'll use a function called apply templates. So we are basically telling it to apply like the variables to the templates. So we are passing, when you say strings, we are basically passing to it the string functions. So we have strings dot. So you'll see you're able to use camel case, capitalize, classify, dasherize, decamelize. The other one is and then underscore. So you're able to use different methods. So we need to pass it to the template so that the template can be able to access it and make the changes. Another thing we're also able to pass is the options. So the options will represent when you call the schematics, you can have hyphen name. So these are like a user. So those will be the options that will be passing. And then we can also have we can also add custom functions like classify. So we can just pass the strings.classify, but we can also do it in a custom way so that you can be able to have a wide array of. So classify, so you say return strings classify name. So if you want something which is not in the strings.classify, you can be able to add it here. And then we're also able to dasherize. And then apart from dasherize, we can also classify. Classify component. So for this, the component, I'll want it to attach like the name component at the end. So it's a little bit different from this. These are just classified, but for this I want to attach the component at the end. And then we can also have dasherize. Dasherize component. So for this dasherize, and then we take name. And then for this, I want to like when it's the file name or something, especially when you are doing imports, I need to be able to add like the component name at the end. So once we have done that, we need to first of all, before doing anything, we need to rename the template files. So what basically rename template files will do is you see at the end here we have the name and then routing module.ts.template. So what we needed to do is remove the template so that we can just remain with the .ts file, because for this the code I think it won't be able if you have configured your yeah.
Atakuwa amelala.
Okay. Okay. So then the next thing we'll tell it to move like the code which has been generated. Remember, we have something like a staging. So we'll be telling it now move the code that has been generated to this specific folder. So if the user hasn't given us the path, we can just move it to source/app, and then once now we have the template source, we can be able now to return a tree. So we'll say return. So chain basically allows us to chain multiple, like the same way we have, I think it's, I can't remember where it is, but we have code which we usually chain. So we can be able to chain multiple functions. So we need branch and merge. Let me just copy that. So branch and merge, we are merging we want to merge the template source with the file system. Now, if you don't do this step, it won't write it to your file system. So you have to do it so that it can move from the staging area to now your code. So after doing that, next we can try to build the schematic. So you just build it like a what is it called? Like a normal Angular project. So you'll run like a npm library. So you'll run npm run build, and since we are just using it in our local file system, we can just use npm link to link it to the local node modules, so that when we create a new project, so I'll just, let me just open a new terminal. Engineer. So I'll create an Angular project. This is just basically to show you the code generation, but I won't go up to the end how to test the code and what have you. So I'll just show you how we can be able to generate. So let it finish installing. Let me just get another project which is ready. This one. Let me just open. So we can just use this for testing. Oh, sorry, I hadn't saved this. So I'll just build it again before linking. Okay. So here our project is called schematic test. So I'll just open the other window and install it. So we'll say npm link schematic test So you remember we did the npm link in the schematic project. So the file, the project is accessible in our node modules, the local. So we are able to use it in another project. So to do that, instead of npm install, we just say npm link, and then you can be able to say schematics. So for when you are using the Angular schematics, we use ng, but in this case we just say schematics, and then we say the name is schematic test. Then name. So you need to pass the name. The name, we can just say user name. So you see it as created. I haven't passed the part. So, but anyway, you see it as created the username folder, and in this case, you see the name has a dash, so it has dasherized. So it's name at dasherized. And then also for the file system, you'll see all the names have, you can have your own unique way, or you can just use something similar to mine. So you see it will be able, I think there's some things which I haven't finished editing, but you can see it's able also to, like the user routing module, username routing module, it's able to generate that. So with that one command, I'm able to generate a whole module for creating, reading, and updating and deleting the user. But if you have like, you can't do everything with CRUD. So there are things which you may need. You can also be able to, like RxJS files and what have you. You can be able to generate using it. But for most cases I've seen it only works inside an Angular project. Outside, I haven't been able to make it work. So you can see it's able to create a dit. It's able to add the username as a dash. I think here there's an error in the code also, but it's able to generate anything. We can also generate another one. Let's say we can say test. Okay. So it has also generated another folder. So it will allow you just to be able to generate your modules a little bit fast, especially if you have like a structured way for doing things. It can be able to allow you to work a little bit faster. And also, if you are working with someone new in your project, and maybe they are doing a small bit or something, they can also be able to generate the modules the way you want, and it will make your code easier to work with. So I don't know if someone has any question on the schematics, maybe it can be a good time, can be able to answer.
Wow, thank you very much, Frank. I think I think for me it was just much of, in terms of I was really admiring, the fact that you went deeper into the Angular schematics and like really tried to see how you can make things in a customizable way based on your requirements. So it was really great. So I'd like to open maybe the floor to any questions. Does anyone have any question or comments? Just raise your hand, icon on top, and then we can give you the floor. Any question, a suggestion, or you have something you'd like to understand, maybe? Okay. Oh, does that mean like everyone has understood the schematics?
Okay.
Okay. So maybe if I ask Frank,
Yes.
so yeah, I'm sure that you're someone who has worked with Angular for quite a while.
Okay.
What prompted you to go ahead into seeing like into like exploring the schematics and maybe customizing? Like, what prompted you to do that?
What prompted me was mostly at times you will find you're working with someone on the project, and maybe you want them to work on a little, maybe they are just in to help you fix an issue or create a modules, especially when you have like interns. So you won't tell them this is the way I design like my modules. So it's easier for them just to tell them generate the module using this schematic, and then when you want to add like fields to the form, you can just go like to the components and create a it, and then you're able to add the fields here. It's easier for them, especially when you are still starting working well, when you are working with someone who is new. So that's the main reason, and also it allows me to, there are projects where you have several modules, especially when it comes to enterprise projects. So you'll find that at times I want to like finish maybe 10 or 20 modules in a given time, maybe just generate them, prepare them for other people to work with. So I then that's what pushed me to learn the schematics and see how I can use it in my code.
Ah, great, great. So does that mean that when you get to that particular level, like where you at right now, there's a lot of needs when it comes to customizing how files are generated and all that? Like, is there a need to, or is it more of like a preference on a team
Um,
by team basis?
like you see, when you are dealing with some projects, maybe the project has for some projects you have a few modules, but when you're dealing with a client who has a lot of data, a lot of data arranged in a certain way, you need maybe someone who wants maybe something like a questionnaire, or a bank which has many files and data and what have you. You will find that you have a lot of repetitive work. If you look at it from a specific view, you find like the user modules won't be very different from the accounts module. So I just wanted to automate the repetitive tasks. Like I'll need if I have a user module, like when from the admin side, the admin is supposed to be able to create a user, update, delete, and the whole CRUD thing. But you'll find also when you go to the accounts, you're also supposed to do the same thing. So of course there will be a little bit of changes on each modules, but the baseline will still be the same.
Okay, okay,
So
cool,
it's
cool,
just
cool,
to
cool.
speed up the process of creating modules for me.
Okay. And for your case right now, is it something you do on every project, or maybe those big projects that you'll do that?
Yeah, mostly when I get enterprise clients, you'll find there's a need to automate that. And also maybe you can have a client like an enterprise client, and maybe the client is limited on budget, so the amount of resources is able to provide for you to work with is limited. So you'll need to automate the simpler stuff
Okay,
so that
okay.
you focus on the core.
Mm, okay, okay. That sounds good. So, does anyone maybe have any question, or like they like to understand more on schematics? You can just raise your hand. Okay, by raise of hand, has anyone gone deeper into understanding schematics?
Wait, have you just done the opposite?
Oh, okay, okay. Okay. And also another thing you can find, people may argue you may use AI to generate code, but you'll find for AI you have to explain the prompt has to be good, and also the context and what have you. But if you need a repeatable way, I think for schematics, taking your time building something which will allow you to generate the code will make you work faster, definitely. The same way you use ng generate service, ng generate component, but now you look at it in a larger scale. You can also have if you know your project has to have user management, login, and what have you, you can just create a schematic to generate all of that at once. And also, instead of using ng new to create a new project, you can also have a schematic which prepares the whole project for you at once so that you can get running quickly. Okay.
Okay, thank you on that. Sorry, I just dropped up a few briefly. Anyone else maybe has a question or a concern, or they'd like to understand something? Anyone? Feel free to unmute and ask.
I think it's quite straightforward. So it is probably to use it in practice and seeing how you can be able to incorporate it within teams. Yeah. So, or if you could actually get into contact with you in case we need more assistance on something around it.
Okay. Yeah, you can just reach me out on Twitter. It's Frank Sitawa. Also on LinkedIn, it's Frank Sitawa. You can reach out to me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There are no questions. I'd like to say a big thank you for everyone for joining this call. And of course, we'll definitely share